Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Whenever we start a stream, I always hear Dr. Nick from The Simpsons in my head. Hello, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah. I
Yep.
don't really sound like that, do I?
No, no, you're safe. So,
We are back again with another stream about setting up companies and our ABC demo stuff.
we
So
are.
we are.
All right. So, the plan today is talking a little bit about we were on the your first 20 hours roadmap of setting up a company. Now what?
Yeah. Now what?
Uh, because after all, after only about 6-7 hours, you've set up the entirety of Business Central.
Not the entirety, but the basics to go
Yeah,
ahead and get things
definitely.
running. Sure, we can go ahead and we can definitely say that. Uh, but yeah, we did come up with a little bit of a couple of things. All right, we've got a list. Like
We've
normal,
checked it
we do.
twice.
Well, I don't know about checking it twice, but we do have a list. So let me
Yeah.
show that here.
Um,
We I'm going to go ahead and adjust some stuff so we can actually see all of it because just can I if I zoom in far enough? Yeah, there we go. So we've kind of started going through this. This is going to be this is our main company of what the is it still with the floof? Yeah, yeah.
yep.
Yep, cool. Sorry. And then here's the one that we're the plays the thing that we're currently working on. So we did go ahead and we kind of did our general ledger setup and all of that, and our core sales and our core sales and receivables, as well as our purchases and payables stuff. There's a bunch of other things that we're going to go ahead and try to do with this company. Approvals being one of them, document archiving, setting up some budgets. And getting a little bit more in depth into like sales and receivables and purchasing, and we'll get some basic inventory stuff going up, and kind of going on and things like that. But for today, I thought that we might go ahead and while we have Jeremy with us and he's our customer, um, I figured that we would go ahead and talk about where did they disappear to? Basic. I figured we would go ahead and talk about basic dimensions, getting those set up and uh, set up in a method that would be good for the fictitious company that we're going ahead and working on. I'd like to also talk about multi-currency a little bit. I thought going ahead, we did set up the currency codes, but we didn't actually do any of the uh, set up to do the like exchange rates and things like that in case we did have another currency that we needed to go ahead and sell to. Maybe we're going to sell to Canada or into sell down into Mexico. Having those set up now would be probably, I think, a good thing. um, then I think we would go ahead and jump into sales a little bit, and talk about the alternate ship tos, and how you can go ahead and set up. Okay, I've got this client that is wanting to go ahead and buy something for their friend, or oh, they've got a vacation home and they want it to be shipped there rather than to their main address. I also thought we maybe should talk about sales return orders. Go ahead and do one of those, and that'll also then kind of move us into if we can do like a sales credit memo. um, that also kind of sets us up to go ahead and do shipping agents, to go ahead and talk about, okay, well, when we ship something to a customer, where do we go? How are we shipping that? Or do we ever, is it our own thing, or are we going shipping by UPS or FedEx or Parcel Force or Royal Mail? Uh, I'll skip the one that must not be named and speed it. And kind of go through that to say, okay, this is how you can set that stuff up. So it's more of a one click. Let's select that and go from there. Um, how does that sound? Does that sound like a plan? I think that sounds like a plan.
That sounds like a lovely plan. I'll be curious to know for folks watching along, this list of kind of feature functional areas is a summary doc we just generated internally of like some of the different things that we'd like to be able to demonstrate. And I'd be curious to hear from the general audience who are following along, trying to learn how to do this implementation sort of things, if there are areas that they've needed to learn about how to implement or demonstrate to a potential customer that it's maybe hard for them to find documentation to. Like one of the things that originally, when this feature overview was written a few years ago, there wasn't a lot of really good documentation around some of the manufacturing and warehousing modules of the system to kind of outline how would I demonstrate these things. And amusingly enough, warehousing and manufacturing, and to some extent, a little bit the project management now, those are areas where Microsoft has invested in trying to really make the demonstration data and the docs pages be able to help people train up on it and demonstrate against it. So it's sort of funny to see their tick box of making things better for us on Learn is keeping in pace with our desire to have it be easier to demo to.
Yeah.
But
So
if there's missing areas, tell us. That'll be sort of fun.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let
All
me
right.
go
So
ahead.
you said for while I'm here that we're going to have me be client mode a little bit and
A little bit, yeah.
talk about what are we trying to achieve.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pop open and get that. Oh yeah, it refreshed because I was away for too long. Da, 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 da. Okay, window. There we go. Yep, that one. Just making sure I'm sharing the right windows and stuff. So the first thing I think we were going to go ahead and talk about today was the dimension setup. And for those of you who don't know, dimensions are
Hashtags.
yeah, I was going to basically say tags. The easiest way to describe them is this: using dimensions allows you to tag customers, vendors, and especially ledger entries, so that when you run reports, you can go ahead and or do what's called an analysis view. You can go ahead and say, okay, well, you know these transactions were a part of this dimension or dimension set, so that you can go ahead and get a little bit better data and more realistic data upon for to track like sales sales things, or what are you doing with your purchasing, and pretty almost whatever you can go ahead and want to drill down, literally drill down on, and check into. So the first thing that we need to do with this is actually set up some dimensions,
Out of
which we have not
curiosity,
done yet.
out of curiosity for any of the folks who are watching along and everything, I'll be curious to know if there's anyone in our audience who has no idea what a dimension is or has never used one. We theoretically are doing a bunch of stuff for newbies, and I'll be curious to know from folks in chat. Are you that new that you don't know dimensions? No shame.
Yeah, we do have, so under general ledger setup, we do have our, dimension setup here. Global dimension 1 and global dimension 2 are also, shortcut to the dimension 1 and dimension 2. And since those are normally generated as a part of, most transactions, if you would like them to, you have to go ahead and use this change global dimensions feature to go ahead and change those later on, once we have some stuff set up, and to obviously to set up the initial things. You have then six other dimensions that you can go ahead and set up and use yourself, but those are not displayed by default on any of the transactions that you're seeing. So let's go ahead and set up some dimensions.
So, to give some examples of how companies tend to use dimensions. for example. If you have a lot of different departments in your company and you have cost transactions that you want to be able to break down by those different departments. Once upon a time in the dim, long past of the forgotten ages of Navision financials, dimensions was referred to as just department and project.
Yep.
And so it was very common that you wanted to be able to break down your income and your expenses based on those different departments. So that's a really common use. Here in Sweden, they would be generally referred to as cost center, for example.
Yes.
Well, in Swedish, but I'm not going to alienate everyone watching with my Swedish pronunciation, and definitely not going to put Mark on the spot.
Oh yeah. No, I don't remember that.
But I've also seen there are some really creative ways to break down to be able to break down the financial summary into subsections. Some people will use, like, if they're doing national programs that have lots of different regions and they want to track how they're doing in the different parts of the country, they might use a customer region type dimension code and those sort of things. So they give a way that when you're looking at the chart of account and you've got that GL line that says sales, well, what you could look behind that and see every individual sale, but what if you wanted just to see sales by your retail division in this city?
Yeah.
Dimensions give you the ability to set those filters and break that down.
Yes.
So hopefully that's, since everyone's super quiet in the audience and no one has said, I have no idea what dimensions are, I'm going to assume you're all experts. They are. I'm kind of wondering who's going to be the first
Either we're
comment.
very good teachers or our audience is very shy.
Okay.
I think they're very shy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about dimensions for the plays the thing then.
Yes. Coming from looking to kind of doing this and kind of based upon some previous discussions that we've had with the client, I'm thinking that having a region as one of the dimensions might not be a bad idea. Also, might want to go ahead and break it down by species. I don't want to say animal. Animal sounds. I keep thinking, not Fraggles. Muppets when I think animals. So I don't know if that would be good. But those are just kind of some that based upon the state of the business or what the business does, I would probably suggest at least those two. So, Mr. Client, what do you suggest, or what would you like to have under our dimensions? And keep in mind that once we have these set of dimensions, we can then assign it to be, okay, well, which ones do we always want to be seeing versus which ones can be stored in the actual dimension set table or off to the side.
Absolutely. Well, since, from the client perspective, I know we're going to play with some of the regional and cost center and projects in some of the other companies and entities.
Okay.
I think that keeping it simple for this one as a very basic demonstration area is a fine thing to do. One of the things that's very common in setting up Business Central is that the demonstration stuff is too complicated. So I think keep it simple for this organization is the smart way to go.
Okay.
And so I am going to also suggest that we use a word for the different species to make it really obvious that it is not a BC term, and call that first dimension critter. What kind of critter are they?
I don't know. Can I put grog down here as sorry.
Fair enough. Critical Role fans in the audience.
Yeah, sorry. Mm-hmm. So we have critter. All right.
You can make one of the dimension values a grog if you want, but I don't think we sell any grog supplies.
I don't think so either. Put down strong jaw. Strong jaw is a type of fish, I think, actually.
Yep, and a fictional version of ale. At this point, I think we're going to scare V off of like I'm embarrassed to be on screen with the two of you.
No comment.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
As
and
long as we keep Brennan out of it, I'm okay with it.
alrighty. So for the other dimension, since we have basically what kind of animal, and we're mostly dealing with selling supplies for animals, the
Yes.
other types of supplies and things like that we would potentially want to do some evaluation around could very easily be kind of like almost what type of items. So I would call a customer might have their own industry terms for what they are. You know, I've seen customers use LOB for line of business to sound really acronym heavy. No offense if you're a line of business company, but I'm going to go ahead and say let's call this dimension segment. And that
Okay.
these values can include things like grooming supplies, they can include food, they can include toys, and that gives it's a little bit redundant with item category, but it allows us to be able to do cost and income and expense analysis based on different line of business. We're making really good margin on food this quarter versus the beds are a little underpriced or not moving. So
Yes.
that gives us some insight into the data.
Okay. Anything else? I think we said region.
We could. I think we'll probably keep the region list very small for this because we're treating the Plaza thing as a little shop in a neighborhoody area and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But I think in our original remit for the Plaza thing is a little later on towards the end of our setup on this. We do have assembly management set
Okay.
up
Yes.
for the place of thing because they're going to be starting a new kind of like pet loot box type thing. And while that's not necessary, while they're in-store sales that people walk in and all that sort of thing, the region's just going to be right there at their HQ. They're just one physical location shop, but the region for the loot boxes will allow them to be able to do analysis of where they starting to get more signups. So I think that makes sense.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Client?
I don't think so from a dimension perspective.
Okay.
We'll have to create some values around things.
Yep. That's exactly what we'd be doing next. Okay. So just we have these dimensions. We don't have any actual data behind it as of yet. So we go over to dimensions and we select dimension values. Now we can go ahead and select, in this particular case, types of critters for to populate that dimension. So we have things like fish, dog, cats, maybe turtles, lizards,
Hamsters.
hamsters.
Why not?
Sters. I think I spelled that right. Did I spell that right? I'm gonna go spell check. Jeremy, and V absolutely know that I do not. My spelling is atrocious.
You are a wizard with ale, but terrible with ENU.
Yes. Okay, got hamsters. What other ones should we add?
Well, now I just want to mess with you and say amphibians.
That's
I had fish already. Amphibians. Yeah,
Birds, dude,
hell
birds.
no. Yeah, birds work.
I think that encompasses the vast majority of our simple sample items and things like that too.
Okay, that sounds good. So, okay, we actually do want to put in the actual name: fish, dogs, cats, turtle.
for those of you playing along at home while he types away, some of the other fun things that you can do with these is that dimensions also have the ability to set translations on them, because Business Central as a system does lots of translation stuff for you, but the data does not. However, they give you some places in the system where you can set translations on things, so that way when you're preparing reports or sending documents to customers, you have the ability to potentially do translations. And those will be hiding off in a submenu somewhere.
Yeah. But I was just thinking, one of the things, or at least wanted to mention, that one of the things that Dimensions does allow you to do is that, very similar to how the chart of accounts looks, where you can have a heading and totaling features. The dimension values also allow you to do that. So we could have gone ahead and said mammals and then put, dogs and cats under that, or amphibians and put fish and lizards and, or
Yeah,
things like that
that'll
in there, and actually go ahead and do that as a totaling.
that'll be fantastic on region as well.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
like, for example, if we're going to use our US tenant scenario here, then we would say a region heading of US, and then maybe we would break down, Northeast, Central, Northwest, and then we could equally have some other regions outside of the US.
Yeah, so we could, that's not necessarily a bad idea. So let's go maybe east, west,
Central and West, yeah. Just 3 is fine.
Yeah. And then we'll just go East Coast, West Coast, and then.
If you're from Minnesota, don't yell at us.
Yeah. Please don't, actually.
Doesn't this make the North feel a little bit left out?
Well,
Well, normally
they
a
won
lot
the
of
war.
yeah, that a lot of the time, the North is kind of like also kind of or is Northwest or Northeast type of thing, not necessarily there. Okay, so this is the totaling account.
If I recall correctly, don't we have the begin and total logic for the dimension types?
We do. We could use that as well.
For whatever reason, just the drop downs are not popping up in the sharing, so we don't actually see the list. It's a little funky.
Okay. And then we could have maybe
streaming
Canada,
Caribbean.
Well, I was thinking that having Canada total, having these in there, and because we do already have the currency codes set up for Canada and Mexico, so I mean that would probably not be a bad idea. So now here's the thing, though. I think we might have made a boo-boo about doing this.
What?
A lot of when we're taking a look at this, is BC expecting let me just set that. Is BC, when we're trying to do these totalings, is that going to expect a number there in order to do that properly?
Double check under actions if we have indent the same way we did on chart of accounts.
I believe we do.
Bet you that will handily generate your totals for you.
Let's see. Okay.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Okay.
Because we do have a couple people who chimed in that they're new. One of the common things to need to do in Business Central in filtering, but also in math operations, is you'll notice between Canada and Canada total as codes is ... And that is a range that includes anything that is between those things. You will notice, however, that we ran into one of the fun challenges that Mark was making reference to, which is
Yeah.
code is an alphanumeric sort. So East comes long before West, and US does as well. So oftentimes in code columns, you may find it more valuable to use short number equivalents for things. So like maybe, US would be 100 through 199. And that's reflected very well in the chart of account style too, that
Hmm.
we had to do, prefixes on things.
So,
So
but I bet if we do this,
then everything will nicely tally up.
I think it will go ahead and work a little bit better for us.
And for those who are wondering at what the little pop-up is, Mark is
Oh,
changing the primary key of that code, which anytime you're working in BC, you can generally speaking rename anything. However, it will cascade those updates. So if you rename a customer, theoretically, the open documents will get that rename as well.
yeah.
And various things like that. So just be aware.
Will that give me the end? Yep. That's, yeah. Your change may update related records, so it might take a while. So, but in this particular case, we haven't actually used this dimension yet.
So it goes pretty quick.
Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, see, it's still not.
How about you remove the space between US West, the S and W? It's gonna put it above East. No.
Maybe. Well, no, it won't. It won't. Unfortunately, refresh that well. Yeah, no, see, it's just doing that.
And this would be a fine time to remind, even though this is a browser-based solution and you can refresh the whole page, if you do that, it does behave a little strangely. Because what it'll do is it'll bring it to just the dimension values. And then when you close that window, all the stuff in the background side will just go away. However, if you hit F5 on your keyboard, it forces a data refresh that pushing the refresh button in the toolbar does not. So that can be a little bit interesting.
Yeah. See, I don't think that. Let's see how it takes the symbol. Yeah, this is a bit of a problem when it comes to. Yeah, see, no, hold on, did it? I didn't rename spaces.
Spaces count as characters.
Yes, they do. And we could, yeah, it's okay. So this is where going ahead and using some sort of numerical code at the beginning would go ahead and really assist us with, with doing this a little bit better.
And you'll notice that we didn't have to do that with the critter types. And that was because we weren't adding any extra structure layer where we cared what order they were in. So
Exactly.
we weren't worried about the sequencing of this. So you do have to put a little bit of design thought into this. For those of you who are working with a partner on implementing BC, this is one of those spaces where their understanding of what you might need to think about down the road can be really good advice. Like, oh, we want a 2-digit number. Well, based on my experience, maybe you should be thinking 3-digit number. Have a nice back and forth, be open to some feedback. Dimensions aren't anything that auditors are expecting you to adhere to accounting principles on, because dimensions are a BC thing. They're a tool for you to use. In other systems, if you work with other accounting systems, to get these same sort of results, you end up needing to have sub-accounts in the chart of accounts, where they're almost like, if you have your, accounts receivable as 23,000, to get the same narrow level of detail, you might have to do 23,100, 23,200, all those different bits and pieces.
So, all right. So I cheated and I called it Z total, and now it works.
Z totals are looking good.
So yeah. So I'll re-indent that just to make sure everything is looking good. But that does look a lot better now, and we'll at least go ahead and get that stuff totaled properly if and when we decide to use that. So next, we still have to set up our segments. So
I was thinking, food, bedding, grooming, toys. I'm not
Food,
sure if there was anything else that
bedding.
jumped out.
What about tanks?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Habitat.
Oh, okay. You're making me spell habitat.
They're for humanity.
That's something. It's something like that. Spell check to the rescue. HAB.
Habibi.
No, that's definitely not habitat.
But yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hop off,
Okay.
and you've got all the info needed to kind of continue on with some of the showing off how the dimensions are set up on different levels. Mostly it's going to be items, but you'll be able to set regions on vendors and customers.
Yep.
And then be able to kind of write up a couple of document transactions to show what they would look like in the preview posting and that sort of thing.
Exactly. I am assuming that you would like critter and segment as dimension 1 and dimension 2.
I think that makes the most sense.
Okay.
Our sample company here, they're moving into doing the food boxes and mail order stuff. So region is new for them. So one of the common things with demonstration data is often that it's perfect as if you were just implementing the system. But the reality is many customers need to live with these systems for years. And I think it reflects well to show that this is a new thing that's being added later.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Have fun, guys.
Yeah. All right. So we have our so now that we actually have gone ahead and set up our dimensions, there are a couple of other things that we can do with that. As Jeremy did go ahead and say, there's translation functionality that allow you to go ahead and set translations up for for documents and things like that, as well as allowed the if we wanted to, let me say this, allowed dimensions per account does allow you to go ahead and set up, if it would, there's an additional setup that we would need to do, but it does allow us to go ahead and say, yeah, you know what, if you were using or looking at a region, only these accounts can go into that particular region, or maybe or going back to dimension values, say that would go ahead and allow us to say, or sort it down so we could say, okay, if we're selling to Canada, then these geo accounts would only be available for Canada or Mexico or whatever. But that's something that is a little bit beyond what we're trying to go ahead and do here. So going back to general ledger setup, we will go ahead and do our change global dimensions. And we are going to say critter is global dimension 1, and segment is going to be global dimension 2. Then we can just go ahead, and what this is going to do is that this is going to go ahead and run basically a report that is going to go through all of the global dimensions, or all of the dimensions for these two, and reset them in all of your documents. So this is kind of important to do before you go ahead and actually start posting documents with dimensions and things, because you do try to change this 6 years down the line, and then we might have a problem with going ahead. It might just take a very, very, very long time in order to do. But for right now, it shouldn't take us too long. Click on this, and it'll go through and at least check, and we're done. So now we've got our critter and segment and set up for dimension, global dimension 1, global dimension 2, and shortcuts are the same. So then our global dimension, or short touch dimension 3, will be region. Yay! All right, so that's set up. Now, are you going back there? Okay. One of the other things that's nice about this is that when we go to items and we go ahead and we say, take a look at this. There is where is it? It is there is and that's history item. There is a default dimensions section somewhere. This is again one of those things that you set up once and you forget where it is. When you do this, this does allow us to go ahead and allow us to pull. There it is. So dimension code, this is for this, and this is for a dog, and then this is segment, and this is a dog bone, so we're going to label this as a toy. So there, this allows us then to go ahead and anytime that we choose this particular item, it should go ahead and put these global dimensions on the line for us when we go ahead and do this as a sale or a purchase. There is a hierarchy to that though. If you go ahead and set it, I believe on the sales header first, it will automatically use that on the document. You can also go ahead and set these types of things on customers and vendors. And once again, if you do it from a customer and vendor side, it will go ahead. BC will automatically use that first because it gets validated first. So keep in mind that in some cases your validation does come into account with how you're going ahead and setting this type of with what values you're actually getting. We would probably use we wouldn't use critters or segments on the particular customer, but we might on the vendor, depending upon what the vendor is actually what we're actually buying from them. Maybe if they only do dog food, maybe we could or should set up those default dimensions on that particular vendor, so that it'll automatically come in for the purchase order and we don't have to worry about it. But for right now, I'm just wanting to point that out. So that is then, oh yeah, we'll have to go ahead and go through a couple more items here too of doing this. So this is, so if we go to, let's see, can we get it to it from here? We may not be able to. Attributes, nope. No, just, yeah, we're not going to be able to go. It may not be on the list page here. We might have to actually drill down to each individual one. Yep, we will. It's not there. Darn it. So we go item. Well, let's say dimension, and this is critter cat, and this is segment bedding. V, do you think just 2 is okay for right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So that kind of sets up dimensions and kind of shows us what is going to happen with that. A little later, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do a sales order and a sales invoice, and kind of show some of the other things that we're doing with that. And at the end, we'll do a return so that we can see exactly how all of that stuff gets posted, and so we can see how all of this stuff that we've been doing keeps going on. But for now, unless people have questions, I think that we need to go take a look quickly at multi-currency, and I want to talk about additional currency here for 1 second. Or, yeah, do that now. So, okay, if we go to current, well, let's talk about additional currency first, because that is something that, oops, that's under a general ledger setup. General. Okay. Additional reporting currency. Additional reporting currency allows us to go ahead in reports and under ledger entries, and other, like the chart of accounts and things like that, allows us to go ahead and show another currency that we want to go ahead and see the value in. For this particular US based company, we wouldn't use that, but I've seen this many times in some places, well, in Europe, as well as in the UK, where they will go ahead and say, okay, well, we primarily do things with British pounds and euros. So they want to see the euro amount also as a part of all of their transactions, because maybe they're ordering most of their stuff from the European Union, or from Northern Ireland or something like that, where they do use the euro over British pounds, or Scottish sterling, or whatever. Um, so it's sometimes good. It's really dependent upon the state of the organization or anything, and things like that, to go ahead and make that decision on whether or not that is something that your clients or your customer would like to see. Um, Keep in mind that that does not, if you are doing any type of intercompany transactions, that does not come across that way. It does not come across. It only will go ahead and do local currency for those intercompany transactions. As well as there are several separate processes that will have to be run every so often to go ahead and make sure that all of those transactions are properly reporting both currencies. So there is a little bit of overhead and maintenance that needs to happen if you're going to head and use an additional currency, as well as it does take the processing. There is a little bit of a performance hit if you are going ahead and doing that. Not much of one, nothing to go ahead and make people shy away from using it, but just wanting to let you know that it is out there. So then let's actually talk about currencies. And let's go ahead and talk about how to set these up. Well, CAD is
Canadian
Canada.
dollar?
Huh?
Is that Canadian dollar?
Yep, Canadian dollar.
Look at me knowing stuff.
Yeah. Then this is the euro, obviously. And this is the Mexican. So there's that. You can put the ISO code, but I don't have those on hand right now. But I believe those are just informational only. But yes. Okay, so this is where we do have some more accounting that we need to go ahead and take a look at. We'll get into the actual exchange rate in a moment. This is the gains account, the losses account, the unrealized gains and losses account. So when you are doing multi-currency, there is always the chance that when you go ahead and you sell something, or sell something to a customer, and between that time and the time that they actually pay you, that the cost or the currency code might have fluctuated against your local currency. These gain and losses accounts, whether realized or unrealized, are basically going ahead and saying, okay, that fraction of a penny or the fraction of a euro or whatever, where do you want me to put that money? Because it can add up, especially if it's there's something weird happens in the country, and that causes the exchange rate to go haywire. You want to make sure that you're going ahead and you're not losing, or um, you're charging everybody and you're getting paid the correct amounts. So for this, okay, we need to find a good, let's go to select from full list. And this can be the same account across all of these. But sometimes people want to go ahead, companies might need to go ahead and say, well, we need to know per per currency, what is going on there. It's current receivables. So let's go ahead and say, yeah, this one, foreign currency accounts could be a good one to use. But you know what? We might need to let's go ahead and actually create a new one here. Based upon this one. Can I copy this? No, I can't. That might actually be a better idea. So that was 6550. So maybe 60. I think that's what it was. Multi-currency. Gain loss. I think that makes sense. That's posting, credit, account category would be, I think it goes under equity. That may not be correct. But let's go ahead and take a look here. Yeah, but I don't know my GL accounts. Let's go to chart of accounts and do it there. That might be a little bit better to do this with. So that was 6650. There it is. Yeah, that's okay. The bank account stuff is labeled under assets, so we will go ahead and put that under assets as well, and that is a balance sheet. That makes sense. Okay, so 16,560. We can put it in 16,560. And that would go here for all of these. Wonderful. Now, let's go ahead and just do the exchange rate. Now, this would actually normally go for you. You would have to manually update this every day or every month or whatever your organization goes ahead and says. But what this does is this is your actual okay, it's 1 to what is it currently. So if we look up the exchange rate for USD, there you go. Where's my thing? Do we have the? Let's see. So
what do we look for?
So it would be USD to CAD exchange rate for right now.
Okay.
So so it is 137. So the relation these here are this, and then we have here for this. Okay, so what do these numbers mean, and what is the relational currency code mean? The relational currency code is whatever the code that you're trying to translate it into. BC does have the ability to say, hey, you know what? If you're going from Canadian dollars to Mexican pesos, it can do that. So you would, in that particular case, I would go ahead and put in this here, and then that would go ahead and say, oh, okay, well, if we need to ever convert this to Mexican pesos, this is the exchange rate information that we would use. And here's relational exchange rate amounts. Well, in our particular case, we're going to use blank because blank is always going to be our local currency code. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the exchange rate amount. This is it's 1 to whatever. Adjustment is anytime that we're making adjustments. How are we also doing that? And then adjustments are always going to be there are several processes that allow us to go ahead and say, okay, well, it's at the end of the month. We need to go ahead and make sure that everybody's documents and vendors and all of our purchases and all of that are using the correct exchange rates. So that is a process that you would run sometimes monthly, sometimes weekly, whenever you need it to go in order to go ahead and do that. So that's when if there's if you ever would have a different rate when it's being adjusted rather than just the normal one, um, that's what you would put in here. But for right now, it's going to probably match what these two numbers are going to be. So for today, actually, let's go ahead and put this in here for today. Come on, there you go. No, that's right. So okay, so that would be today's rate. So let's go ahead and do this for euros. So same thing today. We're leaving it blank because that's what our one is. That's our local currency code. And for euros today, come on, I know you want to do this. Come on. Is 0.93. 1.93. Okay. And then for Mexican pesos, so today, and that would be 116, 116. Perfect. So in reality now, if depending upon the organization and depending upon how they would like to go ahead and take care of that, you could then go ahead and say, oh, well, wait a minute, for 0506 2024, it was 1680. And if you would go ahead and you would do your adjust exchange rates process back here, just this particular process, it would go ahead and go through and say, well, wait a minute, this transaction was done on the 6th. This is what that particular what the exchange rate was on that date. So, make sense there, Lee? Does that make sense?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I'm not an accountant. I don't do much for accounting, but
Yep.
it seems logical that we set up exchange rates for three currencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And remember, this isn't in our demo company, since it's a small U.S. based thing. It's doubtful that they would be using these types of these exchange rates. But as it grows bigger, it might be a good idea to go ahead and have them set up. Um, there also is an exchange rate service, which I'm not going to get into, but there are ways of going ahead and having this information pull automatically every day. But that is a whole bit of setup that we're not going to go ahead and get into. But just keep in mind that it is available to do. However, many times this is a paid service that you have to go ahead and find. But many people's banks have that available for them. So just giving the information, keeping it out there. You know,
I gotta say, for a fictional currency, that we sure did find the exchange rate quite easily.
oh yeah, it's Google. You can just go ahead and you just Google it, and you can go ahead and get the exchange and get the correct exchange rates. So
Yes, but our currency is called fluff bucks.
oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, floof bucks is a 1-to-1 relationship to the U.S. dollar, evidently.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry, I'd forgotten about that. Okay.
How could you
Wonderful.
forget about fluff bucks and fleef?
Yeah, the penny of the floof bucks is the fleef.
Fleef it is.
Anyway, okay.
Yes.
Customers. We're gonna go ahead and talk. We're gonna move on. Oh wow. All right. One of the things too that we didn't set up when we were going ahead and talking about when we were doing the import of customers and things like that is contacts. Customers and vendors actually do have a contact card that you can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? Oh, a business relation code for customers was to have a value in marketing setup. Well, let's go ahead and set that up. What contacts are they? They're basically saying, hey, you know what? If we're contacting this particular customer, we might have 5 people that we talk to about selling the stuff. Who are they? What are their names and email addresses? Think of it as like a little Rolodex for your customers. Um, it is helpful to go ahead and have that. Yep, here's our number set up. Here's the contacts. We don't need campaigns, I don't think. But yeah, I don't think we need that. I think what it was referring to is just the contact numbers. Because we don't really have any we're not using campaigns, segments, or anything else there. So let's go ahead and try this. Yes, let's do this. Nope. Business relation code for customers have a value in marketing setup. I thought it was that. We would have needed that anyway. Here we go. A business relations code. Okay, so what are we calling that? So contact customer. Okay, and then so you can have multiple different types there, but that's it. I don't think I've ever set that up, actually. We can go ahead and say that. Vendor contacts. Yeah, let's do vendor. There we go. Yes, we know. And you can do it for bank accounts and employee contacts too. But we'll go ahead and skip that for right now. So now, let's try it. There we go. That's good. Yep, here's the contact business relation. Here is the phone number of the contact. Now, we actually inputted these customers as actual like personal customers. You could go ahead and have done this as business contacts. And then when you would have done that, it would have shown up here with the actual like company name. And we could have made, okay, well, John Doe would have been our first record or our first actual contact. So then you have your top level of okay, this is how you reach the company. But, if we want to specifically talk to, John Doe, we could have emailed him directly rather than the main company email address. So let's go ahead and let's do this though. Let's go ahead and say, and with it's a person, company number, company name. That's good.
Is that John Doe's wife?
Yep, that's his wife. I figured, it kind of makes sense. So there you go. Now, if we had, this is where the interactions and stuff come into play. Anytime that this is for more sales and marketing. So if we were calling this person, we could say, hey, we're going to create an interaction. This is who it was. This is what we did. This is did we send them an attachment, anything like that? So we have some kind of communication that we're going ahead and keeping together. And you can even create sales quotes from this screen too. Let's see. Nope. There she is. There's Jane Doe. And there you are. So just so that we know that, and that kind of gives a little bit. And like I said, this is actually for bank accounts, for vendors, and for personal for customers too. It does help to go ahead and kind of see who you actually have. Also here, don't want to forget that there's actually a contact name that you can actually fill in saying, hey, you know what? John Doe is the owner of the company, but guess who? We actually talk to Jane all the time to go ahead and, deal with our, she's like the main salesperson, the sale purchaser there.
They kept the business in the family.
Yeah, they did. Alrighty, so that's just a brief overview about how to go ahead and set up contacts and things like that in the system.
Mhm.
So next, I'm not going to bother setting up set up any for the vendors right now. We might set up one later, but we also do have that alternate. We have something called ship tubes. Well, ship to. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it here. Ship two, however, is let's see. Let's go ahead and see. Is it? I gotta remember where this is. Customer ship to addresses. The ship to addresses allows us to go ahead and create alternate addresses for each individual card in the contact. So in this particular case, maybe it's done. I think, like I mentioned earlier, say that they have a vacation house that they want to have, it shipped to rather than their main address. Or in cases of businesses, maybe they have two locations and they need you to ship it to the second location. So for this, we could go ahead and say, okay, this is just called. Uh, let's see, right street. So it's the right street location. So this is defaults in from the original card, but maybe this is instead right street 523. Oh, sorry, 523 or 13, whatever. But it's at the same zip code and it's the same town. They
Yeah.
just have two locations. Okay. And now this location code, this is the warehouse. So maybe as a default, it needs to go ahead and go, well, wait a minute, we're going to ship this if we had multiple locations, because this is on the other side of the country, we need to have it shipped by default from that location over our normal location. Just a default for us.
Mhm.
So now that goes ahead and we need to go ahead and set that, I think. Yep. Ship to code is right street. If it was always going there, if you wanted it to default to that, that's where you would go ahead and put it. Leaving it blank though will always pull in this address and contact information from this thing. And we can show that a little bit later. The other thing that we have here that we can do is, yes, our shipment methods. So we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to use this ship. Shipment methods allows us to go ahead and say, okay, what type of methods are we actually allowing? How do we ship the stuff? We can have something like internal. Maybe we do our own deliveries. Maybe we do UPS. Maybe we do UPS today or UPS ground. Royal Mail. So these shipment methods, that's just going to go ahead and also allow us to go ahead and link those to shipping agents. So shipping agents, UPS, Royal Mail, FedEx maybe. Perfect. United Parcel Service. And we can even go ahead and put in the URL and how to track that information. So if I looked it up earlier. So, but I'll just use the UPS one. I'd have to look up the other ones there. So that being said, if we were going to go ahead and say, okay, well, here is, they normally go ahead and do UPS today. We can then go, let's actually set up and kind of bring all of this stuff together with creating a sales order for this for our guy here. Okay, so we got John Doe. So let's see what it did here. When we go ahead and we went to the shipping and billing, notice how it goes ahead and said it went to the default sell to address, which is, oops, come on, shipping billing. Oops, come on. Yeah, it's not gonna. Oh, it's not gonna actually show us there. I thought it did. There, because it's there. Clicked on the wrong show more. So then we have notice that it went ahead and it did put in that in there, gave us the contact number of who we normally talk to. There's the contact name, all of that. But it's nice then to go ahead and say, okay, let's fill in the agent, UPS, the agent service. Now, we didn't fill this in originally, but we can now go ahead and say like 2-day. And we can then put in the actual like shipping time. How many days does that normally take? And we could go ahead and even create a base calendar to go ahead and generate that information and say, okay, which days are we actually working? So you could go ahead and say, well, you know what? Saturday and Sunday are non-working days, so they won't ship during those time. And then when you get your, expected the dates to go ahead and expected receive dates and things like that, this will kind of try to generate closely on what, on how that, when you can expect shipments and things like that. Okay, so here's the shipment date, shipping of parcel, shipping time is 2 days because it came from 2-day. And we can go ahead and get a package. We can even put in like a tracking number here if we have it. So what are we selling them today? Let's say item. Oh, hold on. No, we wouldn't do that on customers, but let's go ahead and use that. The chewy dog bone, because remember, we went ahead and we did put in here those dimension codes. So if we go ahead, there's $5.99. That's how much it's going to cost. Take a look. See how we have critter code here? That's our global dimension and our segment code. Hey. Oh, and even put on our region code for us too, but we don't actually have a region for them yet. So that defaulted in from the item card, so we didn't have to actually put it there for us. And up at the top here, also thing to note, the sales header, which is this top part here that has like this delivery information, and the lines both can have, and they both have a separate dimension code or dimension set. So that allows us to go ahead and separate those out, saying, hey, you know what? The header had this information and the lines had this information. So that does go ahead and help us, keep those records and other things, good. So, thank you, Venus. We can go ahead and put on put those yeah, we can go ahead and put those tracking information. She sent it to me. I'll go ahead and have to go back and do that a little later. Okay, so we did that. Let's do another item. I think we did did we load the luxury cat bags? Same location code, 30. Oh, I know what I wanted to do.
Well, what do you want to do? Could you tell me?
Yeah. No. I just was verifying. Yeah. See, and here's our other critter codes that came in from the item card. What I wanted to do, come on, is that I wanted to go ahead and say related order dimensions. This here is the dimension set. If we would have had dimensions on the header part, this
Mm-hmm.
is where we would have seen them. Or we could go ahead and actually identify it. So we could go ahead and say, well, this region they are located in west. And then that would go ahead and, oh, yeah. Look what I clicked on. I said, it said, did you want to update the lines? So it went ahead and automatically updated region code on the lines for me since I changed the stuff on the header. But we could also go ahead and go line. I think it'll give us the same, yeah, line dimensions, and you can see here as a list of all the line dimensions that we had on there as well. So just a couple of different ways to go ahead and kind of get to the same thing. If we were to go ahead and, excuse me, if we were to go ahead and kind of post this right now, let's go ahead and do a preview posting so you can see what we can kind of see what this looks like. Customer ledger, we're gonna see that when we post this document, we're gonna get 5 lines through the GL entry, and no document number because obviously this isn't going to be there. But take a look. Here are critter codes and things, and this particular line is the header, so that's the reason why we're not seeing that.
Okay.
But yeah, but see, here we go. We can see, okay, these particular it's going to hit this account and these accounts in order to balance everything. And in the customer ledger entry, we're going to see, okay, here's the ledger entry there, and once again, we see the region code. But since this is only the header portion of the doc, if I remember correctly, we're not going to see that line level there. But if we come to the detailed ledger entry, I bet we won't see it there, unfortunately. And then we're going to have two things for item ledger entry, 2 lines for the item ledgers, basically taking out those 2 items out of stock, and then the tax entry and value entries. So when we would post this is what we would go ahead and get into our the actual various accounts. But I'm going to go ahead and post. Oh, we need to release the document first. But I'm only going to ship this because I want to show some of the other things that we did since we set it up with these, the ship to information and the like the agents and the shipment methods. That gives us a little bit more, some other things that we can do. So under our no, order, shipments, there they are. We now see we have another record here in our shipments that goes ahead and gives us, okay, here's the information, part of that document. This is the shipping name, this is the shipment method, this is the billing information for this, and we can then go ahead and say if we can click on the track package, and it would be nice if it went ahead and actually did the auto filled it in for us, but it just doesn't work. Because there's too many different too many different services, and not every service uses the same type of functionality in order to go ahead and track it. So we can at least get to it and then paste the number in there. And this is obviously a fake number, so it's not going to actually give us any information, any tracking information. But it's at least easy then to go ahead and just click a button and say, okay, customer's called up. I don't have to look for trying to figure out which tracking thing we did. Just track package, go there, pop in the number, and we can see where that is. But shipment dimensions would all have the same thing. This update document, there are a couple of things that you can update, but since it's kind of like a posted sales shipment, and therefore is kind of all you want it to be static because you want to just have that record of that shipment. There's only a few things that you would be able to change. Since this came from the sales header originally and the sales order, it could maybe go ahead and say, well, wait a minute, at last minute UPS couldn't do this, and we had to switch this to ground or something else, or maybe we got a different package tracking number. All of those things are you can change, because that's kind of a valid thing that might actually happen. But you want to keep the rest of this static. Okay, you doing good, V?
Yeah,
All right.
kinda.
Too much?
It's too much sun in here.
Oh. Okay. So now that they've gone ahead and they've been shipped, if you notice here, you can see that the quantity has shipped. And if you had gone ahead and if we had wanted to, we could go ahead and say, you know what, we're only going to ship half of it or only 5 because that's all that we had left. And then when we went ahead and said we just shipped, it would have only shipped those. But now that we've got everything shipped, everything's been shipped, we've got the invoice, we can now post again, say invoice. And now we can go ahead and actually open the posted invoice so that we can see what that invoice actually was. Here's it is. This has been shipped. It was for, about $1,800 floof bucks, and the customer should hopefully be happy. Yay! But let's go back here. Let's say that those beds, there was a defect in them. This is where a sales return order or sales credit memo comes into play. So actually, we could go ahead. Well, there's 2 different ways of doing this. We could go ahead and issue.
But wait, said the customer. What's the difference between a return order and a credit memo?
Well, return order is the actual return process. A credit memo, however, is the end of that process of actually issuing a refund to go ahead and actually credit their account.
And those are broken into 2 steps because sometimes you might not be receiving any goods back at all. You're just issuing a credit.
Yep, just a credit, not anything else. But there's 2 different ways that we can. I still believe that there are 2 different ways of actually generating this. If we go to the posted sales invoices, we can go ahead and say click here and say there's an invoice, and where's that? I could have sworn it was in here, or maybe I'm remembering something incorrectly.
One of the wonderful challenges for our life as BC consultants is they keep making the action bar better, which is a good thing. But it means that if you're a brand new customer using BC for the first time, you don't have to do what we have to do, which is unlearn a whole lot of muscle memory as to where the heck things are.
Yeah. Not only that, one of the things that we do as developers is we do modifications to the system. And sometimes people you think about something and you're like, oh, wait a minute, was that a customization or a modification that I did for somebody? Or was that just how it works? So we have the ability to create a corrective credit memo right here. And if we do this will go ahead and credit the entire document, and say, okay, well, here is the document. We're going to just zero everything out and cause it to go ahead and just be like it never existed at all. You can, I believe, I don't see any reason why we would do this, but say that they were going ahead and we were just going to credit them for, delete this. Maybe we delete that. Maybe we're just crediting them for 2 of those of these. If that was the case, then we could post this, and they would get into their account. They would go ahead and get this total back under those ledger entries. However, we're going to go ahead and delete this because I'm going to go ahead and actually go through the return order process. Delete. Yep. Delete that. Oh. Okay. So said that message was saying, hey, you know what? You can't delete the one of the setup features is that there is a thing called allow document deletion, and I did not have that set. Is that what I'm looking for? That's new. I don't remember ever seeing that. That's new to me anyway. So let's search for allow document. Oh, I wanted you to search on the page. Sometimes you...
But I don't wanna.
Searching on the page works very well for actions, but not for
not for
names.
fields.
Yep.
Just
as a fun, interesting aside, I believe one of the things I think I've seen this in a couple of LinkedIn posts and preview features and whatnot. You might have noticed, of the astute watchers in the crowd, that like when Mark would mouse over the name of a field and click on that, it gives a little bit of help info. A lot of those are linked to a Learn More, where you can find out about what those different settings are. So those can be really interesting. But I believe that coming soon is some Copilot discussion capabilities of,
oh, nice.
Explain this to me like I'm 5. What is this doing?
Yeah. Yep. So this way you can go ahead, and this is allowing us to just pulled us up to the setting up sales page on Microsoft Learn to go ahead and see what's going on there. Am I missing something, Jeremy? I mean, is it just this field now?
I believe so.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, yeah, but that's going to go ahead and really what that's in there for is that so if it doesn't allow you to delete documents willy-nilly for people who may not know what they're doing, as well as basically for your own historical and auditor accuracy. But for
there
right
are
now,
a lot of safety rails in Business Central,
yes,
which is a good thing.
Sales return orders. So now we're going to go ahead and say, okay, so now the customer is not happy, and they said, you know what? Half of those beds that you gave us didn't have any stuffing in them. It was just a blank, empty, bed. There was nothing in it. Maybe there was a problem with the manufacturer or whatever. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead and we'll choose create a new one. We're going to say, hey, John, here's this. Once again, it's populating all of this stuff from the customer card for us, and as well as some other defaults. If we had an invoice, this is the currency code. Yes, we could go ahead and also select. You can apply customer ledger entries. Also in various places throughout the system, also as part of the under the actual customer ledger entry screen, so that way you can link it there. But since this is a return order, we can go ahead and just link it automatically from here so that we know where that's being applied to.
And quick check of our audience, since we've got a good sized pile of folks watching along, and Probably still, again, mostly BC people who know what they're talking about already. But for the folks who are following along, feel free to chime in on chat of, do you know what it means when we're talking about that we're applying a credit to an invoice?
Yeah,
So just
I'm happy
chime
to.
in if you don't, but
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
keep.
happy to answer questions. I just need to have the question. So okay, so it was half of those cat beds, right? Okay, so what the oh well, what's the return reason? We can call it. We can set up a new one here. Defect. Um,
Given that it's cat beds, return reason because it sleeps in the box instead.
yeah, that's cool. Anyway, just defect. If there was kind of like a location code, we can go ahead and set that there. And there were 15 of them that were defective. So we now look over here, and once again we got the critter and segment codes because if we were going ahead and doing this, we'd want to go ahead and pull that since this is a return and kind of a reversal of at least some of that invoice. We'd want to also pull this same dimensions out of the ledger entries so that we would have accurate results.
As an
Okay.
interesting aside, because I figure it's worth a mention too, now that we've got some things posted, that little panel on the right full of teal squares is giving us some information about that particular customer. And we can see that there are some not only posted sales shipments and posted sales invoices, but there are ongoing returns and ongoing credit memos. So we can just at a glance, we would look at this customer's history and go, ooh,
Yeah.
they're a brand new person and we've already done one return and we've already done a credit and now we're doing also a return. We're not really doing a favorable impression with this customer. We
Yeah.
might want to think about that.
So okay, I think that's all that we need here for this. So we don't need to release. So let's go ahead and release. And then let's go ahead and post. Now, once again, we have the same process that we can go ahead and do in order to go ahead and, like we did with shipments, we have the same type of process that we can go ahead and do here for receiving those items back. So what this will do is this will create a receiving document here. This is the post as return receipt. This is our, hey, we're expecting this information, all of this back. We can print and track the package if we have that information. Very similar to how it worked on the sales side, on the actual sales side. It'll give us the invoicing information and other shipping information for this. But this is once again, these are posted documents so that we have the documentation for the auditors to come back with that. So at this point, then, if we go ahead and we do a preview posting, once again, we're seeing our GL entries. This is and notice now this is seeing this as a document type of a credit memo. Cat bedding, here's our accounts and our customer ledger entry that we'll receive. So here's a credit memo, return order, tax values, and our detailed customer ledger entries here then for how much they're going to be receiving back. So if we post this, yep, posted credit memos. Do you want to open up the posted credit memo? Yes, let's open up the posted credit memo. So here we go. And now we can see that this document has been gone ahead and gone through. We have a record of it. They know that they're going ahead and we've credited them their account for the $852. But let's go ahead and go to our customer now and see what those ledger entries look like. Let's actually go to the actual ledger entries. Okay, so here, all right. So here is this is an initial sales invoice that we had. That this one I believe is still outstanding. Yes. And then here is our here's the posted one that we did fully, and that was for this. And then this is the credit memo for the amounts there. Now, my understanding is that if I had gone ahead, oh yeah, there it is. There's the remaining amount. So here's the remaining amount. That was the debit amount plus the credit. That's how much is left on that particular order that is still outstanding. We could also have done that as an actual payment and use the applied entries function here to go ahead and say, well, wait a minute, here is, if we had another payment in here, we could assign, okay, they paid us, here's where that is going. That's going to go ahead and go to this document number. And I believe we went ahead and did that a couple of weeks ago when going ahead and going through this. But okay, any questions from audience? Chirp, 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 chirp. V, do you have any questions? Because I know that you've been looking into trying to do some of this too.
Don't put me on the spot like that. I get speechless. I get scared.
For those of you who might be following along and are potentially wanting to take an MB800, for example, understanding how some of these documents, how the life cycle works, and what ledger entries they're going to, and how those ledger entries interact, those are MB800 type questions. So think about that a little bit.
Yep. Okay. Alrighty then. We are not, if there are no questions, we are not going to be streaming on Thursday. Sweden has a national holiday, and therefore I have been assigned other tasks other to do. But so we will be back next Tuesday to go ahead and kind of continue on, and we will take a look. I haven't really looked at this yet, but my thought is that by going through our since we kind of did our sales and receivable stuff, I figured we kind of go also do the similar things about some of the purchasing and requisition side of things at a high level. So that way we can go ahead and kind of do kind of the same things that we did on the sales side into the purchase and payable stuff, so that you have starting to get a more complete picture of how all of this works. So yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, definitely. I'm thinking. I see that we have purchase discounts. You know what we don't have on here? We don't have requisitions. I know we have requisition management for like our other company, our logistics one. But if we're ordering from other vendors, we might be a good idea to kind of go through requisitions too.
Yeah.
JV, does it?
There are absolutely some things that we could be doing that would be good examples to cover. For example, maybe you might do some purchase quotes to understand the quote to order life cycle. And another thing that is a fairly common thing to do if you're ordering frequently from the same supplier over and over again, and you want to authorize people to do batches of orders at a time to be delivered, is a wonderful wonderful functionality. Strange little term, but it's what it is. So a blanket purchase order, and that is a pretty good way of setting up things as well. So we don't have anything in here about some of those bits. You're right that requisition management, there in Business Central, there is a requisition worksheet that you can run to calculate demand and do automatic order creation based on supply. That tends to be pretty advanced. So when we get into the manufacturing client, warehouse client, when we get into our warehouse scenario company, then we're going to do the full requisition planner.
Yes.
and be able to see some of the restock things. But it still may be a benefit when talking about some of the requisition side of things. On the item card, you can do stuff like say, what vendor are you going to buy from, and minimum order size and that sort of thing. It might be good to show that functionality, since it is pretty common to have vendors have a minimum threshold for ordering.
Yeah.
It can be very beneficial.
It's also one of those things too where maybe we should do that with approvals, because and it's been a while since I've set up approvals. So because I know that in purchase requisitions, I know that there is an approval process if you're kind of using the basic version of that, or am I getting myself confused?
No, you're correct. There are absolutely some pieces of functionality with the approval engine that would probably
Yeah.
be good to go over. Mhm.
Yeah, well, why don't, yeah, maybe what we'll do then is we'll try to go ahead and at least do the approval, like, we'll do approvals next time. That gives me a week to go ahead and freshen up. So we'll go ahead and maybe talk about approvals.
The
We will,
challenge mode for folks in the audience who don't know is Mark and I worked heavily with a system that had massively upgraded the approvals and their own functionality. So remembering the differences between that ISV solution and what's in the base product is going to be a significant hurdle for
I don't know, but yeah, it'll be.
yeah.
It's been a long time since I've set that up in base, also. So yeah, so that'll give me a little bit of time to review that. And so yeah, we'll do approvals because that will take a little bit of time. And then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the alternative order addresses, which is also shipped. It's basically, you know, receive stuff. Uh, we'll skip the line in invoice discounts. That's a little bit more advanced, but we'll talk about the return orders. We'll talk about purchase quotes and purchase orders, and kind of go through that entire. Okay, we're gonna get a quote. We're gonna get that quote approved. We'll go ahead and we'll get transferred that to a purchase order, and then actually do the purchase invoicing process, and we'll do a return as part of that, and then do the uh, kind of talk about, along with the purchase orders, the batch orders, so that, and the batch order, as Jeremy said, is, every month we know we're going to need at least 50 of these, or we're going to need 200 of these, and if we order them like that, then we know that we're always going to have some in stock for those particular things. So
if you can work it into Tuesday next week, if you can work it in, one of the areas that is so heavily requested to be handled through customization and all sorts of other solutions is when you need a sales order to also generate the purchase order to fulfill that sales order. Many people end up being asked over and over again to create customs. We need to create a purchase order from this sales order because we need to deliver these goods to the client and we don't carry them in stock. So it's going to be this special order. So what are the options for that? And they're both on our list under the sections of checklist for this company. And that is a couple of different mechanisms, which are drop shipments and order promising. And
yeah, there it is.
tackle either of those would be good for folks to know, because typically I always come back to, if you need to generate purchase orders from sales orders, you need to give me a detailed answer as a developer as to why you can't use drop shipments or order promising. If you can answer that question, I will be happy to talk about it with you. If you can't answer that detailed question, then you haven't done enough homework on Business Central yet.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I just realized I was trying to show my screen about with the thing, and it was with our list of stuff to grab, and it didn't switch over like I was expecting it to. So, okay, sorry about that. But there we go. That's so as a roundup. Here is the so we'll try to talk about order processing. We'll definitely talk about the alternative order addresses, return orders, purchase quotes, purchase orders, and batch orders. And like I said, we'll try to go ahead and talk about the order promising and the drop shipments there as well.
Sounds good.
If not, we'll go ahead and we'll move it on to not next Thursday, but the Thursday after. So we should be good with that. So
Sounds good. For those folks who are sticking around all the way till the end of this with us, just wanted to also make mention of upcoming bits and bobs. Since we'll continue this adventure on Tuesday with the Plays the Thing, if you are developmentally inclined, you're a fan of the AL world and whatnot, we'll probably be doing some streaming on Friday. I'm going to be doing some updates to the licensing app, and
Cool.
since it's an open source app, I might as well turn on my camera and talk about what I'm coding as I'm going. It's not going to be a presentation. I'm making stuff up as I go along in real time, writing some custom code to talk to an API. And we're going to you're welcome to hang out with me, ride along, ask questions, and I'll absolutely take free code review on an open source app if folks want to join us for that. So
Yeah.
something to enjoy.
And if you guys aren't sick of my, my face by that time, I'll probably be joining him at least to go ahead and kind of, keep him on his toes.
Take a turn heckling.
Yes. I wasn't going to say that out loud, but yes.
Well, when you're not responsible for driving the screen sharing, you can do all sorts of fun pop-ups in the UI for our stream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think people have guessed how many times you tried to make me laugh off camera?
Well, I'm not there in the office, so it's not me.
Oh no! You don't, Mark. You don't have to be in the office. You have access to the chat.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do. But most of the time, I'm not paying attention to it because I'm actually, talking.
Are you doing
things.
something important? I was not paying attention.
Oh, now you got to work on your streamer style because we got to remember to thank people for bits and gift subs and...
or whatever. Okay, guys. Anything else? We good? Last chance for questions.
Quiet crowd.
No one wants to.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
They
All right, guys.
will
We will see you on the 14th. We will continue on our little driving associated thing with BC. All right, guys. Enjoy. Later. Bye.
Take care, everyone.